It's showtime.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
Washington is fundamentally corrupt. There are more words in the IRS code than there are in the Bible.
Made in America, heard round the world. You're listening to Blunt Force Truth. I'm Chuck Woolery, along with my co-host Mark Young, who has his pointy KKK hat on. The hood ornament for the KKK is his hat at this point. This is amazing. What has happened to this country? What is going on? Everything is upside down. Washington is totally inverted, and it drags the rest of the country along with it. It's almost like California making policy for everybody. Who wants to have that? And who wants to have this? We've suffered through BuzzFeed this week. We've suffered through these kids in Covington this week from Covington Catholic High School. I mean, these are minors. They're minors. And these adults assaulted these minors. And then CNN and MSNBC and with the BuzzFeed and with this thing, you're still going with the story that the children who were waiting for a bus assaulted this poor Indian man with his tom-tom beating on it, who was an ex-Marine, apparently, in the Vietnam War. So a sympathetic figure without his uniform on.
And all these losers are out on Twitter talking about how they want to punch 15-year-old children in the face.
Well, seriously. They don't want them in cages, but they'd like to punch them in the face.
Well, they've now determined that the red hat is now the pointy hood of the KKK. So I'm actually thinking about changing from Blunt Force Truth. We're going to create call letters. Our call letters are going to be coming to you from KKKX.
No. No, that's a Democrat anyway. I mean, the Democrats were all KKK guys, not the Republicans. By the way, the irony. There are two ironies that just drive me nuts today. I was thinking about this morning while I was tweeting. One I tweeted out, the other I didn't. All of these private jets landing in Davos, all these lefties going for global warming, who excuse themselves from the global carbon footprint that they create. That's one irony. The other irony is this Black Americans who were devastated and continue to be devastated by the Democrat Party. What allegiance do they owe Democrats? And I have to go back and think, apparently they just don't know the history of the Republican and Democrat Party as it relates to them. They have been fed some line of crap that they all believe that just isn't true, because when you face the truth of how the Republicans have always been on the side of Black Americans, always, from Lincoln on, if nothing else. If you just want to go back that far, you can go further, but back that far. It has been through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Amendment because the Republicans passed it through the Senate. The Democrats didn't even want to pass that. And yet you have this enormous block of voters who don't do anything but vote Democrat for some unknown reason. I know. Have I gone on too long?
No, the Democrats believe they own the Black and the Hispanic vote.
Well, they do. I mean, to a certain extent, they certainly own the majority of them. Let's fit 90-some% of Black votes.
I know, but think about being a part of, think about being a part of that community and knowing that if you decide to be a conservative or you want to become a Republican, you run the chance of being ostracized by your own family and friends.
Forget ostracized, you're demonized. They will ruin your life. They'll crush you if they can, which is another very interesting thing that the progressive liberal, I love it when they say the Democrats are going far left. No, they're not. The Democrats have always been far left. They can't get any farther left than what they are unless they compromise with the Republicans. And some of them are far left too, but that's progressivism for you. But this whole thing about going far left, being far left, Democrats, I was watching Karl Rove yesterday respond to a woman who was saying something about what was going on in BuzzFeed and all this kind of stuff. Marie Harf, I think it was. And she was just, crushing him. And he was politely answering, and no fight in him whatsoever, just intellectualizing everything. And so, the Republicans are just, they just fold under any kind of circumstance. It's just amazing. Or they make some kind of faux intellectual argument that makes no sense to anybody, that you have to be so deeply on the inside to understand it. And I'm just tired of it. And I'm tired of the fact that they keep beating up on Trump, who's literally standing up for the American people, the Constitution, and demonizing him and destroying him. And they'll destroy you. They'll destroy me. They will literally destroy anybody who comes up against them.
Chuck, think about it. Socialism destroys everything it comes in contact with anyways.
Sure it does. It does. And we've been led to believe that progressivism is some new kind of form. It's been around for over 100 years, since the 1800s. Woodrow Wilson was, socialism on steroids. We've always been progressing toward this way, not to be, whatever, but anyway, using the word progress. But progressivism's been around for a long time. It is socialism. It's probably the weakest link of the stepping stone. It's like the drug that leads you into the really hard stuff. So I don't know. Socialism. People act like it's brand new. There's nothing new about it.
I mean, the only difference between socialism and communism is socialism is communism you voted for.
Well, it's like fascism and communism. Everybody believes that fascists are on the right. Well, fascists are not on the right. They're on the left. They are nationalists. So they make this tie that since Trump is for America, he must be a nationalist, so he must be a fascist. Mm-hmm. There's nothing socialist about Trump at all. But,
Well, you look at these stories. So now you got this BuzzFeed story.
Yeah.
That
CNN's still hanging on to this, by the way.
CNN is still riding this. Mm-hmm. BuzzFeed is still riding this. Mueller has come out and discredited the story.
Right.
And
which, by the way, never happens. They never do that. I can't think of in history where a special counsel has ever come out and corrected a record on a news story.
Chris Hayes tweeted out, the BuzzFeed story is literally what Richard Nixon was impeached for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I gave him a lot of credit for that because he managed to figure out how to make every word in a tweet wrong.
I know. But, his followers just accept that as the truth.
Richard Nixon was never impeached.
I know. He resigned. He
resigned.
Let's be honest, though. He would have been impeached.
He would have been, but the tweet said he was literally impeached for this. No, he was not literally impeached. He resigned. They are spending so much time on this story. CNN is still doubling down on it. CNN is still doubling down on the story that those young 15-year-olds were the assailants.
That's amazing to me. I mean, this guy with the drum getting in your face. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Did you have to do
listen to that for 50?
You know how many people are going to attack us now?
Well, they have no idea what I was saying. Only if they speak, some kind of foreign native language, foreign native language. How's that possible?
Speak Navajo. You get us in more trouble.
Bang them drums, baby.
I got a question for you. Do you think that those guys that are out pounding on the drums, making all the noise, that they even have any idea what they're saying?
No, I don't know. I don't speak, Apache or Navajo or Cherokee or Seminole.
I thought you were like a wind talker in the Navy or something.
I mean, maybe it may have some kind of, strange significance. Who knows? Or, it may be significant. I have no idea. It just sounds kind of like noise to me, but it may be a perfectly legitimate language.
You're a racist, though, so it doesn't matter.
Of course I am.
So Rusty Humphreys,
we move from deplorables to racists. Now we are all absolutely, whether you like it or not, if you support Trump, if you are a conservative, you are absolutely a racist. There's no question about it, and you should be shunned by everyone in the community because that's who you are. And of course, that's not who you are. It's just who the left says you are.
Yeah, that's the talking point this week, that you hear everybody now saying, we have a racist in the White House.
Can you believe that? Well, yes. It's the left.
Believe it.
And as I said, they will destroy you. They're not interested in defeating you. They're interested in destroying you completely. And the right, quite frankly, whatever they are, should stand up to this and fight it. But they never do. They always just kind of... I mean, did you see what Hugh Hewitt did? I mean, it's disgusting. And who's the guy that's head of the American Standard? What is his name? Who's, they've folded now, but...
Crystal.
Yeah, Bill Kristol, all these people coming to the defense of this engine with the TomTom, and this kid, this minor, who's being confronted by him, and all these what are they called, Black Israelites or something? I mean,
correct. Who were calling them incest babies.
But I mean, far more vile than that. And yet these kids who are kids waiting for a bus, they're just sitting there waiting for a bus.
But if you watch the whole video, you see something these kids are doing, which is unacceptable.
What, laughing, having fun? What?
No, they were praying at one point.
Oh, they were. Well,
yeah, and you can't do that kind of stuff in public.
Well, they should have done it with their TomToms. They should have pulled a TomTom out of their back pockets and, hey.
So, folks, if you are with us on Twitter right now, reach down, hit that retweet button so we get more of the show out there. And Rusty Humphreys is standing by taking your questions.
I am going to get it. Pile on me. Go ahead.
Please send in the questions right now if you would. Also, like Mark just said, please retweet this video. Let everybody know that it's out there. It's the only way to go around the algorithms that these big social media companies are putting out there. So retweet, let people know that the show is live. Check in, let us know where you're deplorable from. Ask your questions to Mark and Chuck, and I'll read them off in a little bit.
And speaking of being on Twitter will not pull down anything on the left, which is just despicable. But they pull down everything on the right, which I find.
You got a tweet by, what's this guy's name, Russ? You know the guy, or maybe Patrick knows it. He's a Disney producer. What's his name? Morrissey? He's a producer for Disney. He produces, these little princess movies that Disney is so great for, good at doing. Yeah. He said he wanted to throw the children with their red hats in a wood chipper.
Yeah, a wood chipper, right. That's a great image to put. I mean, put that in a cartoon.
Who wants to throw? I mean, what kind of sick bastard are you? Do you want to throw it in a wood chipper?
He's a sick bastard. Good night.
I mean, seriously, you are a sick bastard if you want to throw children in a wood chipper.
I keep thinking about this. Doesn't it ever cross your mind? You think, do the American people just absorb this and say, well, this is the way things are? Or do they really think it through and think, I can't go along with this. This is ridiculous. It's like the wall. It's like voter ID. They said Gillum wouldn't be a governor if it weren't for voter ID. Well, voter ID, we know there's no argument against voter ID, none. And yet the Democrats, argue against it because it doesn't serve their purpose. But then you get to the wall, and everybody said, well, everybody knows the wall works. But you have all of these people running around saying it doesn't work and we don't need it. It's immoral. And just pile on every kind of, absurd argument you can, one after another. And then they say the American people don't want that. They want to be known for the Statue of Liberty, not a wall on the southern border. I just don't believe that.
Chuck, if we can embrace more democratic policies, we won't need a wall.
Yeah, right.
Because no one will want to get in here.
Well, that's true, too. There will all be Venezuela before. And everybody thinks that's a joke. It's not a joke.
No, we won't need a wall because we'll be trying to go to Mexico.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well,
so, I think that's Nancy Pelosi's whole idea. It's just thinking, well, why do we need a wall? How are we going to escape when we finish ruining America?
But you wonder, why would you want to do that? It's really more about power than anything else. But these messages are so thin. They are so incredibly weak. And then these people who go on television, whether they're pundits or they're policymakers or they're legislators, whatever it are, and they all say this is what the American people want. Chuck Schumer, if it comes out of his mouth one more time, I'll puke. This is what the American people stand for. This is what they want, as if they had any clue, because they literally don't get out of the incest of Washington.
So I'm going to show you something here. Let me see if I can get this right.
What's that?
That is called the look of white privilege.
Oh, a smile?
Yes, it's not a big toothy smile. It's not like this.
Yeah, it's a smirk. It's kind of like a smirk.
Mm-hmm. They've been taking.
So there's a word for that. You know what that word is, don't you?
No. What is that word?
Supercilious.
Oh, supercilious.
Supercilious is super because it's the eyebrow over the cilious, which is this part of the eye, and it's raising the eyebrow, looking down your nose. It's a supercilious. It's more of a physical attitude to condescending.
Well, they took the picture of this young man, this 15-year-old man who was just trying to maintain his composure with Tonto pounding on that drum in front of him. And then
and it is funny. I don't care.
I don't care, yeah. And then they put that picture next to a picture of Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh had the same smile. And now the press has been running saying this smirk is the official look of white privilege. Yeah. So I was just trying to give you a white privilege look. Hang on, let me do it again.
It's so ridiculous. It's so absurd. White privilege. Give me a break.
So there is a white privilege look. Now, talking about Brett Kavanaugh.
You know, I'll tell you, by the way, speaking of white privilege, Adam Carolla does a great piece on white privilege. He and Dennis Prager got together, and he was talking about his background, how he grew up, and how his white privilege really kicked in when he was about 18 years old. You know, of course, there is no white privilege. There's no such thing as white privilege. It's just white privilege if you're not a white person, you look at it from a black point. I would venture to say today is all about black privilege.
I had mountains of white privilege when I was a kid. I went to a school district that was so broke we could only afford half days.
You know what? Everybody has a log cabin story, don't they? I mean, so do I to a certain extent. It just doesn't matter. It's just ridiculous. And if people want to buy this, there's no stopping them. It's like you and I getting on the air, honestly, and talking about blunt force truth as we see it, and I think it is. And people just saying, I don't accept that. I don't want to. I don't care how real it is. I don't care if you can see it with your own eyes. They'll just refute it because it's not what they want to hear. It's not part of their narrative, and they won't pick up on it and change it. I mean, look at CNN. They won't change anything, no matter what comes out. No matter if Mueller, comes out and denies that this whole thing went on. To them, it's possible. So he could have done it this way. He could have done it that way. So they just won't let go.
All right. So Patrick just handed me this on Twitter. Jack Morrissey. So this is a guy that produces
on Disney
movies, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He tweeted out hashtag MAGA kids go screaming hat first into the wood chipper. Mm-hmm. And he has a photograph of a wood chipper with what looks like a kid being stuffed in it with what looks like red flying out of the other side of the wood chipper.
That would be blood and the hat.
Blood and the red hat.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy we want entertaining our children.
Well, no, this is the guy we have entertaining our children. Let's be honest. It's not whether we want him or not. It's the people. These are the people who entertain us every day.
Now, do you think there will be any recourse on this guy for putting this tweet out?
No, none at all. In fact, he'll be revered by the left.
But Roseanne Barr lost her show.
Well, I can't lose a show because I don't have one. So I don't really care. I mean, if I go, hi, what are you going to do?
Oh, I'm just picturing Chuck Woolery. Come at me, bruh. Come at me.
What? Come on. Bring those slings and arrows.
Yeah, come at me. You want a piece of me?
I mean, it's ridiculous,
All right. So
and I understand it because I've been in that position. I really do understand where you have to protect your income. You have to protect yourself from these despicable people. You can't be honest. You can't be real. Comedy's dead because of it. There is no comedy anymore. You can't make fun of anything unless you're a conservative. You can make fun of them all you want to. And late night hosts, all three of them, or four, if there are four, I don't know, I know of three, but if there are four of them, they make their living basically doing the news. Am I keeping you up?
No, I was just kind of thinking.
All of a sudden I saw you drift behind the building number 2 there. Anyway.
All right.
They do. I mean, late night hosts are the new anchors for news for the millennials.
Well, that's where people are getting their news.
Yeah, right.
So freshman rep Joe Negus from Colorado.
Is this a Democrat or Republican?
He is a Democrat
from Colorado. Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's going to put plans in place to impeach Justice Kavanaugh.
Well, these congressmen, I mean, there are a few congressmen that people know. Most people have no clue who even their congressman is, much less a congressman from Colorado, new, old, or whatever, retired. So it's a very small group of people that understand and know people like you and I know them. And because we kind of don't make a living off it, but it's what we do to inform people. But I mean, it's what we do to inform people. So we stay current and stay up with who's where and what they're saying. But the average person has no idea who this guy is. And he probably has no idea who he is either.
Well, he's going to impeach Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, good luck.
Because it is clear that Brett Kavanaugh committed perjury during the Senate hearings.
Yeah, of course, it's clear to him.
Right. Where's the evidence of this?
Well, there's no evidence in anything that happened there. That's what's clear.
The rules of evidence have completely gone out the window. And when I say the rules of evidence, we can talk about, the legal definition, the rules of evidence, but there's also just going back to Aristotle and his laws of identity, just getting back to philosophy of the rules of evidence.
You can't even get past Obama, much less Aristotle. Jeez, are you serious?
Seriously, there is no rules of evidence anymore. Oh, no. Somebody will send out a tweet. I'll see somebody tweet me, why do you support a convicted, why do you support a felon? And I will respond, okay, rules of evidence would say that if he is a felon, there was a conviction. Can you please send that to me? Because in this country, we're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, but here's the thing. With the left, it's the allegation that's important. That's all it is. You can make an allegation against anybody, and that's what's important. Now you have to go defend the allegation when there's really nothing there to defend because it never happened in the first place. So,
So if we were to say to Chuck Schumer that somebody told me Chuck Schumer was seen cavorting with goats, that would now be a fact if I said that?
No, it's an allegation, and he would have to defend that and say, I don't know any goats personally. There's a couple that, in my next door neighbor's backyard that I wave to occasionally. Who knows?
But once you make the allegation, it's a fact.
Chuck
Now you're attacking goats. It wasn't bad enough. You were attacking Native Americans. Now you're discriminating against goats.
Well, I'm sorry.
I think that makes you. Would that be a gotophobe?
Probably.
Is there such a thing as a gotophobe?
I don't know.
I believe that is the case. Yes, there is a gotophobe.
See, I think curry was invented to cover the taste of goat.
Oh, God. You're just burying us today.
Of course.
By the way, we're getting a few questions out there. Does this whole thing with the MAGA hat kid make you real nervous? It makes me nervous, says Ruby.
It's making me wear a MAGA hat today. That's what it's making me do. I will not back down from these low lines.
I understand where Ruby's coming from because these attacks are so blatant and they've come where now it's down to attacking a color red. It's not black. It's not white. It's not anything. It's red. It's not Indian, but it's the color red. When it comes down to the point where you're attacking the color red, we got really serious problems. And she's right about that. And does it worry me? It worries me if the American people would pick up on this and abide by this kind of behavior. Yes, it worries me. But I have more faith in the American people than that. I hopefully and don't think that they would fall for this kind of stuff.
So, Chuck, FBI lawyer James Baker, not the James Baker that worked in the Reagan administration.
Right. Mm-hmm.
FBI lawyer James Baker has admitted that the FISA warrants to tap Carter Page were obtained using the Steele dossier. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't you think that anything that comes out of that would now be the fruit of the poisonous tree?
Yes, it literally destroys the entire Mueller investigation, but it won't, because the establishment won't allow it to. No matter, and this gets into something else. I mean, how poisonous is this whole thing? When Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr number 4 in the DOJ, Nellie Orr, his wife, worked for Fusion GPS, who compiled this whole thing in this dossier with Steele. So they collaborate and they talk about it, and he tells everybody, McCabe, who's second in command in the FBI, about this. And then it goes on through McCabe to Weissman to Mueller. They are all aware that this was a paid for piece of opposition research by the Hillary camp, and they treated it like a what's the word that's coming to me? It's they treated it like intel, instead of the process that Hillary Clinton. So the whole thing is just completely messed up, and everyone knows it. We've all known it, kind of. We suspected it for probably 6 to 8 months. Now it's come out after 2 years, and everybody now knows it who's paying attention. But it's like anything else. Once you're in denial, and you have to protect your denial, then you'll never admit to it, no matter how much evidence comes forward, unless you go to court. And you go to court, and then it's proven by a judge, it's upheld by 15 other courts and the Supreme Court. Then everybody says, well, then it must be true. So at this point, you're right.
And then when you're acquitted, it goes on page 16.
Exactly. So
when I was a cop, we were taught that I'll give you an example. If we found a dead body in a trunk, but we opened that trunk illegally, we had to throw that evidence out, not just throw the body out. We couldn't use the evidence.
That person wakes up and is alive at that point, right?
Well, yeah, but we couldn't
use it.
We couldn't use that evidence to convict that person of a crime because we didn't obtain the evidence legally. So that's why you have warrants. That's why you need a warrant to go into someone's house and look for evidence. If a cop goes in your house without a warrant and starts hunting around and finds evidence, that evidence can't be used against you.
But Mark, the point is you are approaching this with reason, law, everything that supports your argument. And I
have a tendency to do that. Is kind of how I live.
Exactly. But it's not how the left lives. And the left controls the media. They control, almost everything. Now they control the Congress. So it's just not going to happen. No one's going to be held accountable for this because it is the deep state. It is the protective gentry who run our country, and they will not be denied, even if they're wrong, and they are. There's absolutely no question about this, and it'll be very frustrating for all of these hosts. I've watched them. I've watched Sean Hannity and people like this. I've watched Rush. And now you being absolutely honest about this and everything else, it literally, we are at a place in this world, in this country, where I just don't think it makes any difference to the political hacks that run our country.
The left keep attacking Rudy Giuliani for his comment about the truth isn't the truth.
Well, sure, that's the diversion.
But he wasn't saying what he's saying isn't the truth. He was talking about the truth isn't the truth anymore because when you tell the truth, you're told it isn't the truth.
1984.
Yeah, double speak.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so. Whoever thought that would be real? I mean, when you read this whole thing, who thought that we would actually get to this point? Now, here's my take on that. When you look at Orwell and what he was writing, did he have some kind of futuristic ball that he looked into and said, well, this is
prophetic?
Well, but it strikes me that maybe this was going on during his time as well. And he sensed that it would get worse and worse and worse to where it happened with everything.
I can speak to, the work of Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand, if you look at Atlas Shrugged is as accurate as 1984.
Right.
Written in 1957. And Ayn Rand said that the way that she came to that novel to those conclusions was she literally looked at the arc of history. Where was the country founded? Where were we in 1957? And she just carried the arc out. We started over here. Right. This is how we're ramping up. Where will we land?
You know, it's part of what I was talking to Martha McCallum about when I did an interview with her last week that they're going to run sometime, maybe. I flew to New York for it, but I have no idea whether it'll ever get on the air or not, because I literally admonish people for using the word democracy, because it's really left speak. It's speech from the left to guide people to be totally misinformed. So we are at the point now where all we do is talk about our democracy, the republic, unless you're repeating the Pledge of Allegiance, is just not a word that we use anymore to describe our country. So,
except we can go to Article 4, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution, which says the federal government shall provide a republican form of government.
Little r, exactly right. And the point is that we now are so far down that road that that's just one indicator. It's a signal that we have given up our republic for the idea of a democracy, which is an anathema to the Constitution. So I don't know how to correct that. I don't know whether you ever can.
This is a brilliant segue. This is a brilliant segue on your part for me to show.
Make America a republic again. Exactly.
This is not the typical MAGA hat. This is the blunt force truth MAGA hat.
Yeah, until you got close there, I actually didn't know what it said because I'm semi-blind.
Mark, a lot of people are asking, how do they get that hat?
You know, Rusty, I'm so glad you asked that question. You can obtain one of these hats along with our fabulous T-shirt and coffee mugs at bluntforcetruth.com by going to the shopping center. Now I'm going to show the shirt here. I love my country, but I fear my government. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, that is legit. You know, obviously, Chris Peranto is wearing one of our shirts proudly.
Is he?
Yes.
Oh, good for him. Yeah. Yeah.
If ever there was a man who had the right to say, I love my country and fear my government, he's the guy.
Benghazi. Don't forget Benghazi. That's who Chris Peranto is.
I mean, my God, when you listen to that story about how he was still afraid of his own government until he made it to Germany. The way they left him to die.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So the Women's March was over the weekend, Chuck.
Well, it was kind of derailed by everything that happened. What's significant? What is going on with this? Women were marching in the early 20s, or marching for the vote. That's another thing.
The suffragettes. Yes. Don't take. You already attacked everybody else. Don't take us down a women thing here too. Okay. I'm just warning you up front.
Okay. All right. Guardrails are up. They're up.
All right, here we go. This is like bumper bowl that we're playing here. It's like going bowling and they bring the bumpers up.
I'm not anti-woman. I'm not anti-marching for women's rights or anything like that. Come on, it's stupid. I'm not any of those things. But the point is that everybody keeps talking about how black people got their vote during the 60s. Well, that's just not true. They got their vote before women got their vote.
Correct.
Black people were given the vote through Congress before women did. Now, what did happen was there were a lot of Southern Democrats who didn't want them to vote, and they made it very, very difficult for them to vote. And so that was kind of cleared up by the Civil Rights Act, which is why we ultimately needed the Civil Rights Act, which most Republican senators voted for, which actually got it passed. But now I'm not sure what women are marching for. They got the right to vote?
Oddly enough, the women at the march didn't know what they were marching for.
Oh, okay. Well, but what do you think they're marching for? Do you have any idea? I mean, did you talk?
Yes.
Have you heard from anyone who knows?
I can tell you what they're marching for.
Pay? What is it?
They're marching because they hate Donald Trump.
That's it.
That's what they're marching for.
Okay. Well,
some of them were marching for global warming. Some of them were marching for equal pay. Some of them just want to dress like vaginas, and I think they just do that because it's a place where they can be accepted in a vagina suit. But all of them.
And you were worried about me. I give up.
Patrick dropped the bumpers on the alley here on me.
Jeez.
And then, I'm serious. They do.
I know you're serious. That's what's disgusting about it.
But all of them are there to say they hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But
it seems to be the thing. I mean, golly, how unpopular can you get when you go up against the entire bureaucracy of the world, the left progressive bureaucracy. You go up against it, and a lot of the right as well. I mean, Republicans still haven't accepted Donald Trump as president. He is the duly elected president, and no one's accepting it.
Well, Mark and Chuck, Arizona Golden Girl wants to know, she'd like to know which rights she doesn't have so she could join the march too.
Maybe she can tell us. I honestly don't know. I mean, this equal pay thing, everybody can say that. That's not a woman thing. Everybody can say they're not paid equally. I'm not paid equally like George Soros either. I'm not paid equally like anybody else, Jeff Bezos. I wasn't. By the way, I'll give you an example of equal pay. I come on NBC with Wheel of Fortune. Now, I sign a contract with Wheel of Fortune for 7 years, and I make $65,000 a year, right?
For having the number one show on network television.
Had the number one show on network television. Now, 6 months later, I approached them. I said, look, we're doing really well. Don't you think you could bump my pay up to say where Peter Marshall is? Peter Marshall was doing Hollywood Squares.
You have a bigger show.
Peter Marshall was making $1 million a year. This is back in the 70s. And they said, absolutely not. So at the end of my contract, when I went for $500,000 a year, they said, no, we're going to get somebody else. So they got Pat Sajak. Now, it didn't hurt the show, but here's the point.
Who was the weatherman, by the way?
Was that equal treatment on their part and on my part? Absolutely not. It was not. But did I go run around the country saying I was unequally treated because I did the number one show and I didn't make the kind of money that guys who had the number 3 and number 4 show had on television? And that would be equal, right? I should have been at least equal to them.
No, you went and got another show.
It never happens. Face it. Live with it. You make your own way. So I went on to do 5 other shows and was successful with those. But every time I had to start over again, this is true. Mm-hmm. My business is the only business where you have to start over again every time.
Well, if you're smart, you do that.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people.
That's the reason why you had 7 shows. Most people in television have 1 show and you never hear from them again.
They won't work again. So, because they keep demanding higher prices.
Right. Because I made $2 million on the last show. So if you want me on the new show, I need $3 million.
Exactly. And they
Which you never did that.
No, I wanted to work. I wanted to enjoy my life.
So the Women's March, I want to go back there.
So that was not equal pay, and they were not equal pay, and it was so unequal, just to make my point, that I could have complained about it. I never complained about it. I never did. I knew the difference, but I didn't go out and march about it.
So the Women's March, a couple of their key people is Tamika Mallory and Linda Sansauer. Mm-hmm. Tamika Mallory is a person who supports Louis Farrakhan and refuses to condemn him for all the anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish ranting that he makes.
Louis Farrakhan is a vile human being, period. He's vile.
And we've got Linda Sansauer, who is out supporting Sharia law.
And that's vile as well. So these are the thing that it's very interesting to me was everything that the left supports in the name of America is an antithesis to the American way. It's an antithesis to the founding, to where we're going, to our success, to everything we've accomplished. It's absolutely the antithesis of all those things, and they make it sound like it's so American, and it is so un-American. And, of course, they're terribly offended when you say that and point out the fact that it is un-American. Socialism is un-American. It's contrary to capitalism, which is, very American.
So we're talking about Sharia law, which approves the genital mutilation of women.
Oh, I know. It's nasty stuff. All of this stuff is nasty.
And many women at the march that were interviewed would not denounce these 2 women. And here was my favorite comment.
They probably don't even understand it, if you want to know the truth. They probably don't. It's truly, as Al Gore said, an inconvenient truth.
The answer that I loved was, well, it's better to be a flawed feminist than no feminist. So,
you're right.
But that was their answer. That was one of the answers that just struck me. Better to be a flawed feminist than no feminist. So as long as you will go out and protest against Donald Trump with me, then I don't care. I don't care about anything else in your life, any other value, any other thing that you believe, that you support, as long as you will hate this president.
Well, not only that, it goes deeper than that. If you could make a list, I've never done this, but I just thought about it as you were talking. If you make a list of all the things the left hates and reviles, they hate white people, and a lot of them, obviously, the majority problem are white. They hate white people. They hate white men for sure. Okay.
And then add rich white men, and you're really in trouble.
Well, then you got rich people. They hate rich people, and yet I said today, let's compare billionaires on the left and billionaires on the right. They have become the party of the rich, when in fact, at one time, the Republicans were the party of the rich, but haven't been for a long, long time.
You know what the difference, though, is? I don't feel guilty about having money. They do.
Well, they feel guilty about everything, but that's another point. My point is, what are they for? What I know a lot of the things that they're against. What are they for? And it seems to me like they're for socialism.
Yes.
And they now are coming out and saying it, that they're for socialism. Now, if you look at the history of socialism, what has it brought to people wherever it flourished?
Destruction,
pain,
starvation,
pain, suffering, murder. I mean, Stalin was a socialist. Hitler was a socialist.
But you're missing something.
Yeah, what's that?
It doesn't bring pain and suffering to the leadership.
No. There are people who are exempt from it until an outside force comes in and takes them out.
But that's what these people are. Whether it's Bernie or Ocasio-Cortez, socialism is really good for the rest of you.
Well, it's like, when you're talking about a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
It's kind of the antithesis, or not the antithesis, but the embodiment of a pyramid scheme. It's the people on top who do really well. And as you go lower down the layers, it gets worse and worse and worse. So it never really solves anyone's problems. It just creates more problems.
So follow with me here. So the left is very inclusive of transsexuals, bisexuals, whatever sexual you can come up with, in the gay movement. Great. Mohammed El Garrity.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That they're inclusive? That
they're inclusive. Yeah, what does that mean? What exactly?
Well, they say it's the Democratic Party's a big tent.
So there's giving
room in
voice.
The tent.
They're giving
There's
voice
room
to
in the
people?
tent for everyone but white conservative men.
Right.
The tent gets a little filled up when we get there.
Well, white conservative women too, and black conservative women, and black conservative men. So let's be honest.
So Mohammed El Garity, an Egyptian TV newscaster, he was just given 12 months in prison because he interviewed a gay man on a private television network, and they actually took the TV network off the air for 2 weeks on top of that to punish them for interviewing a gay man.
Well, okay, look, let's be honest. This is a Muslim thing, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so, or maybe Muslim is not the right word. It's more
Islam.
of a Islamic thing. And with Islam, there are varying degrees of adherence, as there is with Christianity or Judaism or anything else. There are all kinds of little sects that go along. But the main goal of Islam throughout history is to take these kind of people down and, completely destroy them. But the irony of all ironies, the left supports them. And I'm sure that's where you were going with this.
Right, because we're supposed to be for gay rights, but we support a leadership in the movement who supports Sharia law.
We as Democrats.
Right. And Sharia law says that I can put you in jail if you talk to a gay man.
Yeah, well.
Which, by the way, I had an idea. Okay. What do you think? There's 31 Democrats now, looks like, going to run for president. What do you think? I'm thinking about running for president as a Democrat. What do you think? Just so I can screw it.
That's like bull riding a giant bull. You wouldn't get past the horns and the minute they pulled the gate, you'd be off in the crowd. Not going to happen.
Can you imagine the debates if I could get on that stage? How much fun that would be.
Yeah.
So
look at how many people are running for the Democrat presidency rather than, everybody's declaring, everybody's running. Well, they're 20-some people or 25
31
or 30.
is what they're expecting.
Do you really believe? I mean, and the media is obsessed with it. Even our beloved Fox News. Oh, Kamala Harris, she declared today, and what's his name down in San Antonio? Castro.
Oh, and then don't forget Robert Francis O'Rourke.
Yeah, Bobby O'Rourke. Yeah, Bobby O'Rourke. We love him. He's a good old Irish boy who's disguised himself as a Mexican. He's very strange. Oh, well, anyway. So anyway, you got this vast number of people in the field. Everybody's trying to plant their plant and get going. It's ridiculous even to comment on it at this point. It's like you run out of news, so let's fill it with everybody that's running for the Democrat presidency.
Hey, this is great. I'm seeing people that are plugging in there saying they'd vote for me for president. So this is getting serious. This is getting serious, Chuck.
Well, you got Rusty and people out there. I'm not for it. I wouldn't vote for you. I'm not.
Yeah. I was going to make you vice president.
Okay, then I'm in.
All right, there we go.
That's a job that you get nothing but ridicule for.
Russ, do you want to be chief of staff?
Yes. I'll do the work and keep people away from you.
Oh, wait a minute. If we say chief of staff, somebody will probably say that's another Native American slur, be my guess. But
that means I'll be the first to be fired, too.
All right. So we don't need a wall, correct, Chuck?
Well,
we're on day 31 of the shutdown.
Right.
No one has
listen,
died.
What kind of negotiation is this? So here's the plan. They wouldn't negotiate before the shutdown. Let's be honest. The Democrats would not negotiate before the shutdown. Trump shuts down the government. Now, every Democrat across Washington is running to a microphone saying, if you reopen the government, we'll negotiate.
Now, let me tell you why the president can't do that.
Well, he shouldn't do that.
He shouldn't do it, but here's the reason he's not doing it. It's very simple. The president had Nancy and Chuck over to tea at the White House, and he asked Nancy, if we open the government, will you negotiate on the wall? And she said, no.
Oh, is that when he had a temper tantrum, according to Chuck Schumer, and
according
smacked
to Chuck
the desk?
Schumer, and that's when he got up and left.
Yeah, right.
But understand, the idea that open the government and we'll negotiate is a lie.
You see, this is the difference, though. Republicans aren't used to this. And Democrats are used to snagging Republicans into a meeting and talking to them ad infinitum about just going in circles and chasing their tail and not accomplishing anything. Trump says, look, I'm here to solve a problem. You want to solve it? I'm with you. You don't want to solve it? I'm leaving. And they just aren't used to that. That's not the politically correct thing to do.
Well, it's not the Republican thing to do.
Well, it's not the political thing to do. I mean, everybody's talking, he just walked out of the meeting. Well, he didn't walk out of the meeting. He had his answer. And then he walked out of the meeting.
Nancy answered the question.
The answer was no. Exactly.
So they're claiming we don't need a wall because there's no danger there.
Right.
So there is this gentleman in Nevada. His name is Ernesto Guzman.
How do I know that name? Ernesto Guzman. It sounds like a Mexican German.
You're thinking like Moto Guzman?
Ernesto Guzman.
Well, Ernesto Guzman killed 4 innocent people in Nevada, and he is an illegal alien.
Oh, that's how I know this guy. Okay. He's kind of a young guy. I guess maybe early 30s or late 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So and they had to, the only reason they got him, from how I understand it, you want to tell this story or am I jumping in?
No, please do.
Yeah. The only reason they caught him was is it Nevada?
Yes.
Yeah. In Nevada, they don't have this thing where, you don't call ICE. They can call ICE. And they can talk to ICE and everything else. So they said, we got this guy, and we don't know exactly what he's done, but we know he's illegal, and we're going to hold him for you. The only reason they held him could hold him is because they adhered to the federal laws where California and many other places like that, cities like that, don't. So this guy would have been, if he'd have been in San Francisco, he'd have been back out on the street.
So here's my question to you. When we have a gun control debate, we're told that it is okay to trash the Second Amendment and to take away honest citizens' rights to have guns because, what's the slogan? If we can save just one child, it's worth it.
Which they don't mean. But.
Right. So the left says we can trash the Constitution. We can violate the rights of hundreds of millions of honest American citizens and take their arms away. And we can do that under the flag of if we can save one life. But we can't build a wall when we know people are coming across the border and murdering innocent people in America. Where's the one? Where is the? But if we can save one life, I actually want President Trump to get on TV and say, "But if we can save just one life,
isn't it worth it?
Isn't it worth it?"
You know, it's funny. It's not funny. It's just everything is so inside out, upside down, inverted, perverted. Every argument. I watch these people make their arguments on the left when they're on Fox and on other stations, which I occasionally go to CNN, MSNBC to see what's going on. I'll listen to ABC News in the evening sometimes or NBC just to see what's going on. And it's just amazing when you listen to their vacuous. It's like listening to a loop of Juan Williams trying to make a point for the left. It doesn't have any meaning. It has no depth. It has no depth of thought, no history, no nothing. It's just statements. Yes,
An endless loop of Juan Williams is my definition of hell.
You know what? It is. It's insane. And yet people, I don't know. I don't know why people go along with this stuff because
the left does a great job of humanizing their emotions. We talk about statistics. We talk about 62,000 people smuggling across the border every month. But the left will say, but look at this little girl. Her name is Juanita, and she had this and she had that. And how could you reject her from coming into America? They personalize it. They get into that. But if we could have saved one of those children in that school, we don't humanize our stories. President Trump does do some of that, and he's to be congratulated for it. I think, I got to tell you, the ceremony that he did in the White House was extremely humanizing. Did you see that? The naturalization thing he did?
Right.
That was magnificent.
Yeah. And it wasn't covered by everyone.
No, because it was good.
ABC, NBC, CBS, major networks. And CNN didn't cover it as well. Somebody said, well, MSNBC covered it. Oh, big deal. But,
here's an example of the left.
You never hear about good things that Trump has done, which are by far outweigh the bad things that they say he said. The good things he has done are amazing.
I'm going to give you another one. There's a guy by the name of Leroy Schumacher. Mm-hmm. Now, Leroy Schumacher is complaining that he's going to sue because his grandson and his grandson's friends were wrongfully killed.
His grandson and his grandson's friends
were wrongfully
killed. And how did it come about?
His grandson broke into a man's home. Him and his friends broke into a man's home.
Mm-hmm.
With the man home.
And the man killed him.
Yes, but he shot them with his AR-15. Mm-hmm. Mr. Schumacher says that the AR-15 gave the homeowner an unfair advantage over his grandson.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not making this up.
Oh, please. That's insane. And that's the frustrating part. And I'm sure that everybody's, like us, sits at home and listens to this stuff and just says, well, that's just insane. And it is. You're right.
I've resolved the problem at my house. You know those like brass containers that you put umbrellas in?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I now have one of those with 6 AR-15s in it. So if you break in my house, you can pick one up, and we have a matched gun battle now. We're going to be evenly matched.
I know for a fact that you can't keep the magazine in them and put it in an umbrella stand.
Yeah, but the left wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, he was unequally matched.
I had a Glock sitting by my bed, and I hadn't put it away yet. And someone was cleaning. I'm not going to mention who it was cleaning the room, and said, "Well, you have a Glock, or you have a gun sitting on your bedside table with a clip, and don't you have to put the clip in it and then put a round in it?" I said, "No, that's the extra clip." There's a clip already in it.
There is, I argue this with people all the time because, as you know, I carry a gun all the time. Well, you don't carry it loaded, do you? No,
Yeah.
I'm freaking Barney Fife. I keep one bullet in my shirt pocket, and if somebody tries to hold me up, I ask them to stand by while I try to get it out of my shirt and load it.
Gosh. Oh, my
Or then
gosh.
you'll run into somebody, well, I don't carry a round in the chamber. No, because you're like freaking Wyatt Earp, and if something happens, you have the fine motor skills to rack the gun and to load it so that you can now defend yourself, knowing that the average gun battle happens in 3.5 seconds in a 14-foot circle. It's absurd. It is beyond the pale. Rusty, any last comments from our viewing audience?
Well, first of all,
people,
there are some people very excited about you and Chuck running and winning in 20 and 20.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that very much, but I wouldn't be available to do that. And
somebody said that we are the white guys with white beards party.
Oh, that's right. I'm getting ready to do a major commercial next month, so I've got to shave mine off. They don't want me to appear with my goatee, although my wife loves it.
I know, and you can regrow it by the end of the commercial anyway.
This is true.
Literally, he'll shave in the morning, and by the end of the commercial, he'll go, and
bang, there it is. What can I say?
Are you
Hey,
guys?
listen,
what else we got, Russ?
Are you guys happy with the way Trump's doing things right now with the shutdown? You happy?
Yes, and I think you should hold on until the Democrats absolutely give in, and if they don't give in, just let it pile on. I feel sorry for these 800,000 people who are out of a job right now and not being paid. They will be paid eventually. So I would go get a loan or do something because you certainly are going to get paid. Some of them will go ahead probably and get other jobs, maybe permanently, and get out of government altogether since it's so unstable with Trump and the Democrats.
Which is the reason people used to get government jobs, by the way,
yes,
because
they were
very
stable. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, it's just one of those things that you have to suffer through, unfortunately, when you deal with an intransient group of people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all of the other people that are on their side. It's impossible to deal with them because it's just our way or the highway, which they always, everything they do like this, they blame us for and say we're doing it when in fact it's never ever true. So Trump is holding the ace, I think, up his sleeve, and whether the American people are for this or not, let's face it, it's not affecting my life. It's not affecting your life. Now, it's interesting that my wife, her daughter and son-in-law are looking for this is close to home, looking for a loan. They have a loan on a new home that they're buying. It can't go through. So they may lose the home.
Oh, it must be a FHA then.
Yes, it's an FHA loan, and it cannot go through till the government opens. So I'm having that affect my life right here with people I love and know. And still, I'm for it.
Yeah, it's tying me up at the airport. Security's longer lines, fewer people coming into work. Mm-hmm. So who's going to blink first, buddy?
The Republicans, but not Trump. The Republicans always blink first. So I look in the future. I see senators, congressmen, people like that who don't have the fortitude to stand up to the Democrats and do what they always do, which is fold to their wishes.
The president's got that veto power, though.
I know. But I still see these rank and file people, these deep staters, these people who have been in government for a long, long time, just start to fold. So I hope that doesn't happen, but that's usually what does happen.
Well, thanks everybody for being with us here on Blunt Force Truth. If you enjoy the show, please Go over to iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, leave us a 5-star review. Make sure that you go to bluntforcetruth.com.
Or you can send smoke signals.
Ooh. You're a racist. Or you can go to bluntforcetruth.com. Don't forget to go there to get all your news, the real news, not the fake news. You can go to CNN if you need fake news. But you can go to our place if you want actual news. And you can buy one of these fabulous hats and T-shirts and do all kinds of cool things over there.
For your friends.
And we will be back with another episode of Blunt Force Truth on Thursday, I believe. Is that when we're back on, Patrick? And that's it for today.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.